Hi everyone, welcome to virtual YeurDreamin 2025. My name is Chitrankita Shrivastava. I'm a consultant and a CPQ specialist at Cloud Muscle, and I am your host for the session. With vast experience in CPQ implementation spanning across various CPQ products, here I am to share my experience in CPQ and CPQ deployment strategies. I believe you heard CPQ 3 times over the last minute, and you hear the same term going forward and lots of time. But hold on, what does CPQ mean and what does it stand for? Quite simply, it stands for Configure, Price and Quote. Let me take you back to when I was a bright-eyed Salesforce consultant until I deployed my first CPQ configuration. At one moment, everything looked fine. The next, approvals went crazy, pricing logic broke. That was my initiation. Since then, I have been researching how to make CPQ deployments at ease, avoid chaos, and even make them smooth. Today, I am here to share what I wish someone had told me back then. Buckle up for some unfiltered conversation. Every hero needs a guide. As a CPQ specialist, we have battled same challenges, navigated the complexities, and emerged with strategies to master the deployment. But from those struggles, I discovered the new strategies, new tools, and new sanity-saving methods, which I'm sharing with you today. Moral of the story: CPQ is powerful, but only if you deploy it right. Otherwise, it turns into an expensive automated mess maker. Like any great quest, we have a roadmap. We'll explore the foundations, uncover common pitfalls, and reveal the modern approach that leads to success. Brace yourself, there will be obstacles, but with the right tools, you will conquer them. Here's the game plan. First, we will explore what makes CPQ tick, because knowing its anatomy is half the battle. Next, we will talk about the data and metadata, how they're interacting with CPQ. And then, we'll visit the dark days of CPQ, the outdated approach that nearly broke us. Next, I'll show you how modern CPQ deployment changed the game so you can walk away wiser, faster, and with few gray hairs. And the last, finally, after doing the market research, we'll present you the best tools which can ease your life. Let's walk through to CPQ. CPQ is a living system, constantly evolving and plays a crucial role in the sales cycle. The key to mastering it is understanding its core cycle. Here how it fits in. So the leads originate from various sources like campaign, marketing, and web, and a select few convert into opportunities. Once opportunities are created, CPQ helps in configuring the right products, determining optimum pricing, discounting, and readying the quote for finalization, including some applicable promotions. The process then moves through necessary approvals, generating quote documents, and syncing with the opportunity. After approval, an order is created, post-order process starts, followed by contract generation, which ultimately leads to an asset with some ongoing maintenance. And at last, we go through the customer retention, loyalty management, and feedback cycles to enhance customer satisfaction and long-term engagement. Now let's see how it interacts with CPQ. Imagine a city without maps, traffic lights, or rules. That's CPQ without proper data and metadata migration. Data and metadata are like siblings in CPQ world. Data is what you store. Metadata, how CPQ interprets that data. Data consists of transactional and operational information, pricing and product information, which includes product, price list, price book, attributes, tax rate, discount structures, and many more, including the configuration rules, order orchestrator, customized quoting, asset creation, that all falls under the one umbrella, data. Last but not the least, we have multi-source data integration. The most important. CPQ relies on data from various sources, such as CRM, ERP, billing, and external pricing engines. On the other hand, metadata defines the structure, rules, and automation that control how CPQ processes and manages data. Customization and business logic helps in the creation of custom rules, validations, automations to tailor the system of business needs, basically simplifying it. Approval and workflow automation. Some metadata driving pricing rules determine how discount tiers and approvals function. And the most important, the obvious one, organizing the objects, fields, and relationship to ensure seamless data flow across the different modules. So to summarize this, data is chaotic, one who constantly changes their mind, and metadata is the structured one who enforces rules and rolls their eyes at data nonsense. The last two slides, we understood about CPQ and the data and metadata, how it interacts with the CPQ. Basically, CPQ is a part of the sales cycle. But let's see how we can take it to the business. Let's travel back in time. It's been more than 2 decades Salesforce launched. It's been more than a decade since the Steelbrick CPQ came into our life. It's been a decade of years Salesforce acquired Steelbrick and renamed to Salesforce CPQ. But hold on, we're not talking about just a Salesforce CPQ. We're talking about the generic CPQ, which are leading in the market. I believe many might have not been expected to be here if we imagine 20 years back. So since then, many businesses started with the classic approach, believing it will work, and it did work. And there's still many of the industry, many of the companies, the projects are still going through using the classic approach. But soon they encounter the chaos and most of them ending up there questioning their life choices. Take a blink of eye and recall your memories. This is what we do, aren't we? CPQ projects are of two types. One is data deployment, which consists of only data, and the other is the metadata and data deployment, which consists of more metadata and data. I've never seen in my CPQ career, where there's only metadata deployment, because data is the backbone of the CPQ. Now imagine this. We have a team of 5, 2 developers, 1 data analyst, 1 architect, and a release manager. The data analyst starts with the data preparations by extracting and formatting the data. What does extracting and formatting data do? Extracting the CSV files using the data loader and the workbench. Start with the mapping the CPQ objects, products, price book, attributes. Format all the data cleanup, removing the null values, ensuring the data integrity by proper mapping of IDs across the spectrum into the CSV files. And now, after putting so much effort, the data is ready. The manual effort. Meanwhile, the architect and the release manager start working on deployment pipelines, release planning, connect the repositories like Git, Bitbucket, and Azure, basically preparing the repositories with required branches. The other 2 developers start committing their changes in the branch, then it goes through the change monitoring and then merge. Once the metadata is merged, then only the data analyst can start with the data upload using the data loaders or workbench. Basically, the data analyst was doing nothing until the metadata is merged. Both the changes are in UAT now, where monitor, testing, and rollback in case of issue comes up. Now the testing can be manual or automated. In the current market, we have automated testing tools like Prova Testing Rule and Selenium. All said and done, you have just wrapped up weeks of hard work on CPQ configuration. Everything looks perfect in Sandbox. You hit the deploy button, sit back, and your inbox explodes with urgent emails. If you have worked in Salesforce long enough, you have probably experienced the challenges during the deployment and the post-go live. The challenges which we will be talking about here. Complex dependencies. CPQ isn't just a feature. It's a delicate web of dependencies. Pricing rules depend on product rules. Product rules depend on configuration attribute, approval process, that depend on everything. Change one thing and it ripples across the org. Unique identifier issue. The classic approach doesn't ensure data integrity. Ever deployed a CPQ record only to find that it's duplicated, disappeared, or mutated? As data records in different Salesforce environments have unique IDs, likewise the external IDs, auto number fields, relationships that break when the IDs don't line up. Integration challenges. CPQ doesn't live in a vacuum. It talks to the ERP system, billing platforms, other Salesforce clouds. The classic deployment method doesn't ensure these integrations stay intact. Instead, it often breaks them silently. The data stops syncing. Sales teams see incorrect pricing. System configuration and business data. Business changes fast. CPQ, not so much. Marketing rolls out the new pricing model, finance update the approval thresholds, and you're still stuck in the last year logic. Without structured approach, business teams move faster than CPQ can keep up, leading to mismatched pricing, approval bottlenecks, endless manual fixes. The classic approach doesn't adapt it, it just struggles to catch up. Increased risk of data error and compliance. Ever heard of SOX compliance, revenue recognition rules? CPQ handles sensitive financial data. If a deployment messes up the contract values, applies incorrect discounts, loses approval history, you don't have an just unhappy sales team. You have a legal risk. And with the classic approach, there is no way to ensure data accuracy before go live. Inefficient rollback and change management. The classic approach has no easy rollback. If something breaks, you manually fix it in a production, which we call it as hotfix. If configuration updates go wrong, you pray you have a backup. If an approval process disappears, you hope someone remembers how to rebuild it. Without version control, automation, and proper change management, every deployment is a high stake of gamble. And these are the major ones we are talking about. Sometimes the small ones are not even tracked. Just when all hope seems lost, the wise admin steps forward and says, what if we automate this? Where both data and metadata deployed together. And thus the modern approach is born. The modern approach brings clarity and automation. Let's imagine the same scenario where we have a team of 5, 2 developers, 1 data analyst, architect, and a release manager. We start off having with our architect and the release manager to have a deployment pipeline, version control system, a single source of truth, branching, and the rollback strategies. Next, the developers will start committing the changes to the branch, which eventually go through the change monitoring and merge. And the data analyst will start with the automated data deployment. What is automated data deployment here? The data analyst will use their pre-configured data templates, automated approach to prep the data. You choose the CPQ data objects, product, price book, and price rules and contracts to migrate from source org to target org. There will be an automated data mapping. This way, we maintain a relationship, keeping the record IDs consistent across the environment without putting an extra effort on mapping and formatting. This has also enabled the parallel development not only in metadata changes, but also the data. Make sure we deploy in phases and the right changes to the right branches, avoiding conflicts with the other merge request, ensuring all changes go via branch to have the SADC org and repo healthy. Now the metadata and data are synced properly. Was the metadata and data deployed to the sandbox we start with the automated testing. We already discussed in classic approach about manual testing and the automated testing using Prova testing tool or the Selenium. What's the difference here? The automated UI test to simulate the real world scenario with the required data sets. How does that help? You say. Now we can run automated UI tests before every major deployment. Monitor rollback and sync. Rollback deployments, if arise in both the cases, conflict, bug fixes, if you see step 2 to 3 would be the continuous cycle, where we have bug fixes with the hot fixes, monitor deployment success on the dashboards and logs, and sync the CPQ configuration across sandboxes, which we call as a sandbox seeding. And finally, we go through the go live and the post deployment. We finally deploy the changes to production and perform the post deployment steps. Now tell me, did we reduce our extra manual effort, which we were putting in the classical approach? In classic approach, we were 6 stages away from the go live. And here in modern approach, with automated data deployment and automated UI test, structured pipelines, strategies, and by monitoring your changes and repositories together. Guess what? Where all these navigations are happening in one app. That's the difference. What's the moral of the story here? The changes we move from dev QA staging to production using our pipelines. We have committed the changes. We have automated the validation. We have deployed to UAT. We have moved the data and metadata together, and we push to the production. Market research. There are 3 tools in the market with which you can eliminate chaos, streamline deployments, and maybe even on that promotion. Several tools in the market offer data deployment capabilities along with the metadata deployment. Broadly, a low-code DevOps tool designed specifically for the complex data migration. Copado, a full-fledged Salesforce DevOps platform with robust CI/CD, test automation, and governance. Gearset, a lightweight and user-friendly DevOps solution focused on metadata deployment, a lightweight data deployment, version control, and CI/CD. Out of these 3, there are 2 tools which stand out in the Salesforce market. Broadly and Copado. Copado is the market leader, and Broadly is a specialist in Salesforce CPQ and Revenue Cloud automation projects. Let's see how does they look. Broadly, what do we get here? We have one app, one UI, proper navigation. We have predefined data sets, data templates, plans, results, all together at one go. What is the impact? Time save, reduce the error. Why do we need this? It provides deployment templates, again, seed sandboxes, seamless CPQ data management, and the migration. How to set up? It will take you 20 minutes of your life to set up the managed package and the pre-configured features. Copado. As discussed in previous slide, Copado is a Salesforce DevOps full-fledged platform with robust CI/CD, test automation, and governance. What do we get here? One UI with different sets of tasks containing the pipeline configuration, data masking, automated testing, and AI-powered DevOps. What's the impact? Same. Time saved, reduced error. That's what we want. Why do we need this? For stricter version control. Because the key strength of the Copado is version control, compliance, release management, enterprise scale automation. It's best for the large organization needing a strict governance and automation in deployments. How do you set up this? A managed package with pre-configured features, and it's all yours. Wrapping up. What do we know and what we have learned? After all the trials, errors, and near production meltdown, what's the biggest takeaway? CPQ deployments are not just metadata. They are a package deal. Automated testing can be your safety net. Smart deployments help you with the happy Fridays and free weekends. The final lesson, CPQ deployment shouldn't feel like an extreme sport. Now, it's more like a first-class travel, smooth, predictable, and no turbulence. So are you ready to stop the madness and deploy the CPQ right way? Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let me know your comments, questions. I'm happy to answer. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.